Hello everyone, welcome to the Kevin Lee Social. Thank you for tuning in. What initially began as an 8-part series interviewing entrepreneurs to share and inspire how they've successfully pivoted during COVID-19, I have decided not only to continue this series, but also to expand on the scope to understand and learn about people's craft, philosophy, the challenges they face in the industry, and their favorite failures that have helped shape them to become who they are today. By going deeper and understanding different thought leaders, businesses, and industries, the idea is to help cross-pollinate ideas applicable in your life and inspire action in this new norm we live in. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. Today we have Canna Campbell. She is the founder and director of SASS Financial Services, a boutique financial planning firm. She is Channel 9's exclusive money expert, founder of financial media platform Sugar Mama TV, and best-selling author of The $1,000 Project and Mindful Money. She is passionate about educating, inspiring, and empowering every individual to create financial harmony, freedom, and independence in their lives. On her digital platforms, she shares bite-sized tips on how to get out of debt, save money, achieve financial goals, and build long-term passive income. Her media business, Sugar Mama TV, is a powerful movement making money and finance more approachable, energetic, and enlightening. Everyone, please help me welcome Canna. Hi Canna, thank you for coming on. I know you're a super busy woman. I really do appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me.
I've been doing a bit of research about you, and obviously one of your Instagram and your pages about Sugar Mama TV. Could you share with us a bit of a backstory or the background of it to our listeners?
Sure. So I'm actually a financial planner, and I have been working in financial services since I was in my 20s. I have my own financial planning practice, SASS Financial, which has been going for about 15 years. And 5 years ago, I realized there was a huge gap in the market where lots of young females in particular just didn't understand the basic principles behind money. For example, they didn't understand how to use a credit card responsibly. They didn't understand how to save money. They didn't understand about how to invest. And I realized that this was important information that people didn't have access to or were missing out on. And I set about to try and help everyday people create financial harmony in their lives. So I launched Sugar Mama TV, which is a YouTube channel, and I make every week bite-sized videos from everything around money, from how to get out of credit card debt to how to build a diversified share portfolio to how to ensure that you can retire on time. Anything that's to do with money, basically.
Great. I've seen your videos and I feel they're very practical. I know a couple of friends who are big fans of yours as well. They've been following your story, your journey, and your teachings as well, which is great. It's making a big impact out there.
Thank you. It's something I'm really passionate about. And the good thing about this is it's free. You know, it's on YouTube, so anyone can access any of my content. They don't have to pay anything. I really focused on making finance fun and fashionable.
And in regards to all of this, is there something in your childhood blueprint or invisible scripts that illustrates why you grew up to be so financially savvy?
My parents are very respectful with money. My parents aren't uber wealthy, but they're comfortable, and they've always been very respectful to the flow of money. They be able to afford the things that they wanted and that they valued because they worked really hard, and they have always been, they're not a family that saves money, they're a family that invests money. And I had all the things I needed in life for a great upbringing, but that definitely instilled that respect of money, and that particularly from my father from the investing side, that really spurred an interest in me in creating financial freedom. Because when you get your money working for you, you don't have to go to work. You don't have to sit in front of a desk staring at a screen. You don't have to answer to a big, bad, annoying boss. You don't have to work the long hours. You don't have to travel to work every day. Like, you have choice back in your life. And that's incredibly luxurious in this day and age.
Absolutely. It sounds, and when you talk about getting money to work for you, do you mean that in terms of passive income?
Yes, but not the multi-level marketing schemes that we quite often see where people are trying to sell like Tupperware or oils or all sorts of weird and wonderful products that are out there. That's not passive. Passive is where is your money genuinely working for you. So you literally could go to sleep and stay in bed for a year and you would still receive an income. So, for example, a really common one is earning rent from an investment property, because you don't do anything to earn that rent. Someone moves in to the property and pays you a monthly amount of money every month. You don't physically have to go to work to earn that money. That's true passive income. And the one that I really focus on helping people build is passive income through a diversified share portfolio.
And even in this time and date, during the recording of this, we're still currently going through the COVID-19, and with all the lockdowns and the economy in the state, is it still a possible reach at the moment, passive income through diversified shares? Absolutely.
I think there's a huge blessing in disguise behind all this. And I say this obviously with complete and utter sensitivity and awareness for people, particularly in Melbourne at the moment, who are going through stage 4 lockdown, which is just so incredibly stressful and overwhelming. So I say that with complete respect towards them. The thing is, at the end of the day, I've still been investing through this COVID market. And so I have also through the $1,000 project portfolio. The reason why is because I'm buying the same quality blue chip industrial investments, but now at a 20% discount or a 25% discount or a 30% discount. And because I'm building up a diversified passive income stream, I'm able to basically buy those same, I guess, financial assets and income stream, but at a discount. Eventually, when human endeavour prevails and the markets recover, not only am I still getting a growing passive income stream, I'll also get the benefit of some capital growth. But my portfolio is very well diversified. It's very boring blue chip stuff, businesses that we see and use every day, like banks and supermarkets and transportation companies and infrastructure businesses. So it's very simple investing, really, but there is market volatility right now, and of course, you've got to manage that risk in an informed, educated way. But yes, I'm still investing in this. And if anything, I see this being a huge blessing in disguise, because these are once in a lifetime opportunities potentially.
Definitely. I understand where you're coming from. You mentioned the $1,000 project as one of the ways that you're using this method. Is that, I know that you also wrote the book, The $1,000 Project. Is that where people can find out more about this passive income that you're talking about, or from your latest book?
Look, both books are really helpful. The $1,000 Project was my first book, and that's more an elementary level. So it really focuses on the side hustle, babysitting, market research, turning a hobby into a commercial business, house sitting, looking at ways that you can bring in extra money outside of your 9-to-5 salary and use that to take any goal, whether it be paying off your credit card debt, your student debt, building up a deposit for a first home, or doing what I did, which was investing. It's about taking a big goal and breaking it down into bite-sized, mini, manageable, and achievable goals. So that's the principle behind it. And I talk about investing and the power of investing small amounts over a long run and what it can do for yourself financially. Mindful Money, which is my second book, which actually just came out this time last year, and that's a lot more advanced. It's probably the equivalent of The Barefoot Investor, but obviously written with a female voice. And I love The Barefoot Investor. I'm not disrespecting him in any way whatsoever, because he's been a huge inspiration to me. But it's got a lot of practical steps as to how to fix your finances, where to start, what to do, what to look for, what to ask, what your financial goals should be. But also the difference with my book is with Mindful Money is it delves deeper. It delves into the psychology of money, talks about your language to yourself about money, your mindset, your attitude, because we can't fix that much within our financial situations if we go in with the wrong headspace or attitude. Whereas when you start from the right place up front, it's like planting that seed in the fertile soil. It's more likely to survive. If we start looking at our finances and where we want to achieve our goals and dreams, let's look at the way that we think about money, talk about money, respect money, and it makes the whole process not only easier, but so much more fulfilling and enjoyable.
That was a lot. And in terms of how you were talking about the psychology towards money, how would one go about becoming either more aware or starting to shift their mindset towards money? Sure.
So it's about looking at your money story, going right back to our childhood, because that's often when the first impression of money came into our life, the first definition of what wealth is or what our future holds, and it's all subliminal and all part of our psyche deep down where we'd never even imagined existed. So stopping and spending some time to understand what your money story is, and also learning to catch yourself out, or change the language around. So this morning I was talking to a 55-year-old lady, and she was saying how she's bad with money and it's going to be really tough for her. And I was like, enough. It's the situation you're in right now is what it is, and you've got to accept that. But this is a tough situation, but you're tough. And it's going to be a lot tougher if you don't change your attitude. And it's going to, that you are, it will be tough. Sorry, I was going to say, and you aren't poor. You are fixing your finances. You're getting better at building wealth in your life. It's about removing those negative terms and making them positive and making yourself feel empowered. So that's just a fraction of what I talk about in Mindful Money, about the psychology of money. And also the idea of, some people think that being rich comes from a place of greed and narcissism and vanity and materialism. I'm not talking to people about buying Birkins and Rolls Royce and traveling in private jets. Like that, if you can achieve that's amazing and great. Don't get me wrong, but I'm talking about financial harmony, like having balance in your life, having money to be able to buy good quality food and access the best healthcare you can get, and having time to be with your family and your friends and be completely present in their company because you're not worried and stressed about money. That's what I'm talking about.
And would that be your definition of a rich life, you'd say?
Absolutely, yes.
And what are some counterintuitive advice about finances do you commonly hear circulate around?
Oh gosh, there's so many. Bitcoin is one of them that I hear, the cryptocurrency, and gold. It's up to everyone what they want to invest in. Just do it in an educated, informed way. And the thing with Bitcoin and crypto and gold is it's a one-dimensional investment asset. To actually sell it, you have to trigger capital gains tax, and they're not two-dimensional in that they don't pay passive income. So it still requires you to be managing an investment portfolio and actioning the selling of those investments. And obviously people look at the return and go, that's great, I made this much money, but you also got to deduct a certain amount of money in tax. So that's one big myth that I hear about, or misunderstanding. The other thing is that shares are risky, and it's about building diversified investment portfolio and spreading that risk and understanding the businesses that you're investing in. And I don't ever recommend people invest in a startup business or even a high-tech company. I'm about the really defensive businesses that we see every day. Even with this pandemic, we still have to go to the supermarket and buy milk and bread and vegetables. We still have to go to the bank and use all the banking products and services. We still are using public transport and walking on our pavements and crossing the roads. And this is the businesses that I'm talking about. And of course, some of your investments will fail, but then if you've diversified properly, the other ones will support those ones that temporarily fall down or permanently fall down, so that you get a good long-term average.
Thank you for sharing that, Canna. I really appreciate the advice you've given there. In terms of talking deeper into the pandemic at the moment, what are some tips you could share for people going through challenging financial times?
First of all is to be kind to yourself. Like this is a tough time. It's scary. We've never really been through this before. And there's a lot of uncertainty. It's changing by the minute. And things just happen in the blink of the eye. So just be kind to yourself, take each day as it comes. But there are some other things you can do in a proactive way which will help, I hope, alleviate financial stress and pressure for people who are experiencing it right now. And obviously most people are experiencing it just at different times and at different levels. But number one is understanding your financial situation. Face the noise and find out, who do you owe money to and how much. Find out how much money have you got in savings, how much does it cost you to live, like what have you got in assets, what have you got in liabilities, what have you got in your superannuation account, what investments have you got. Get a good stock take or a clear idea of your financial situation, because then you understand where you are and you understand what you have to protect and what you have to try and build or preserve. Next is looking at your liabilities, making sure that you can have, at the very least right now, a minimum repayment plan in place, trying to make sure that you can actually service the interest on your loan. So even if you're only just able to keep your head above water, at least you're not going deeper into debt. And if that means putting your hand up and calling up your utility providers and say, look, I've lost my job, I'm going to struggle to make the gas bill or electricity bill, see what they can do, because these businesses out there are willing to work with people to help them stay afloat in this situation. So that is incredibly important. Obviously, do a budget, know your cost of living. But some of us, it's a time for us to really be honest with ourselves and look at our living expenses and what can be cut down, what has to be cut out, and adjust it so that you've got your essentials first, and then you can add in the things that you can potentially afford to. But as I said, factor into your budget those debt repayment plans if you are in debt. And then, of course, have some financial goals for yourself. Some people obviously are slightly more protected than others from this. And perhaps there are some people who've got savings and have been wanting to invest but haven't been ready. Now's a great time to start learning about investments and what the opportunities are, and decide if this is the time in their lives where they want to step up and start making some headway with building their financial future for themselves.
Plenty of great advice there, especially one of the ones I resonate with at the moment is calling up the services and utilities and telling them that we're currently going through a hard time, putting a pause on the interest rates or anything like that, because it's not something that people are comfortable reaching out and calling for, but it's definitely something that's essential at the moment, especially if we're trying to build a target fund of some sort, a target saving fund.
Absolutely. And everyone should have emergency savings. Even wealthy people should have emergency savings. And most wealthy people do, because that's how they've stayed wealthy in these situations or similar situations. And one of the most common questions I get asked is, how much should I have in emergency savings? And there's no one size fits all. You've got to really look at your situation and go, oh, I've got 2 young children and a mortgage. So I need to make sure at the very least I've got 6 months mortgage repayments, and I've got $5,000 per child in case I have to take them out of school or I have to jump on a plane somewhere. Look at your situation. Or you might say, well, I'm a single person that lives at home, and a lot of my living expenses are covered at the moment. So that person may not need as much as a young family does. Look at that number in your head. We go, what if I had $10,000 or $20,000 or $6,000 in a separate savings account for emergencies? That's going to help me sleep well at night. And that's what you need to work to. There's no magic formula of 3 months, 6 months, 1 month. Everyone is in a unique situation.
Yeah, I can also imagine by building that safety net, it would reduce a lot of anxiety, especially what people are going through at the moment.
Mm. Absolutely. And I've spoken to lots of people who have lost their jobs, and they've said to me, I started listening to you a year ago or 3 years ago, and not only did I pay off my debt, I quickly built up my emergency savings, and now I'm so grateful for those emergency savings because I lost my job, and it's enabled me to keep paying the rent and keep food on the table, and I'm not feeling as stressed as what I would be if this had happened to me 3 years ago before I listened to your material and actually put your advice into practice.
Mm. And talking about saving for funds, do you have any favorite saving tips for the people?
Everyone has such a different way of spending money. I think it's very personal. So you've got to do a budget first and then look at your living expenses. But when it comes to things like clothing and accessories, like handbags, I'm a huge fan of the secondhand economy. I'm someone, if you see my Instagram account, you'll know that I love handbags, particularly luxury handbags. So I'm quite happy to buy something from the secondhand economy. Not only does it save money, but it saves and reduces landfill as well.
Absolutely.
So that's a good one. And second thing is call up your providers. So many of us get complacent with our budget and think, oh, that's what my electricity bill is. That's what it is. Nothing I can do. That's quite often incorrect. You can call them up and say, look, what other special plans do you have? Am I on an expired plan? If I renew for another 12 months or 18 months or 24 months, can you do me a better deal? And so often they'll say, yep, we've actually got a special, we're looking at your usage, we can give you a different plan. So go and search for those savings within your budget. They're definitely there.
Hmm. And speaking to some of the younger crowd at the moment, what do you recommend for those wanting to move out of home in terms of renting or buying, but are not sure where to start or if they can afford it yet?
First of all, it's so great to be able to have that goal and dream and desire to have your own home. I think I really respect and admire that. And I remember going through that phase myself. So the first thing would be obviously working out, what can you afford? I'd love to go and buy a $10 million home, but the reality is that's not going to happen in my financial situation right now. Look at what you can afford, and you can do that by speaking to a mortgage broker or calling up your bank. And then you'll find out, obviously, how much of a deposit you need to save. And ideally, to avoid mortgage insurance, you want a 20% deposit. You've got to factor in stamp duty, so work out how much stamp you need to have saved. And start saving. Have a separate dedicated savings account. The moment you get paid, put as much money as you can afford to within your budget. So you're fattening up that deposit. Make mini goals along the way. So that my goal is by December the 10th, 2020 to have 15,000 saved up, or 8,000, or whatever the number might be. But break it down so that you're constantly reminded of this goal. You're constantly working towards it. Talk to people about it. Have a financial friend where you talk with each other and share each other's goals and help keep each other motivated, inspired. Do your research, and it's up to the person whether they want to live at home or move out and rent for a bit. And there's nothing wrong with renting at all. And there's also nothing wrong with rent investing. I think that's another great strategy that people have been using.
On the topic that you've just mentioned about renting, there's a bit of a debate going on about rents versus buying. And for example, if someone was starting out and they think, okay, should I save purely just to buy a house, or maybe I can rent, but then invest my savings into a diversified portfolio? Ideally, both, yes, but
both would be yes, but it would be great.
Yeah.
But obviously, you can only do so much. The thing is with that, they're two different goals. One's a lifestyle goal, one's a financial goal. So deciding to buy your own home is a lifestyle goal. And the reason why is your home is not a financial asset as such. If you use the equity within your home to diversify, that's different and very different. But you can't live off your home. You can't rent half the house out. Obviously, with that, you can't really turn into investment property once you're living in it, unless you're like sneakishly renting one room out, which is a bit not what we're talking about here.
Yep.
It's your home. The interest you pay on your home is not tax deductible. So when people say rent money is dead money, so is interest. For people who are able to rent, I think it's actually a really great idea. I'm actually very much for renting, because the cost of renting, particularly right now, is so much cheaper than it would cost to own that place. And you get bigger tax deductions if you're working from home. Also, if something breaks, you just call your landlord or your property broker or property manager, or your property manager, and they will call someone else and pay for the dishwasher to be fixed, or the lights bulbs to be changed, or the hot water tank to be fixed. You don't have to worry about any of those wear and tear expenses. And when you look at the cost of owning a place, you get hit with all of those bills. And on top of that, you have to pay strata, you have to pay council rates, you have to pay water. So you've really got to look at the real numbers, and people look at it at a very simplistic level where they think, well, I bought a house for 500, it's now worth 800, I've made 300,000 tax free. But when you peel off the layers and you look at it for the reality of what it is, you say, hang on, you paid $25,000 in stamp duty. You've also paid $100,000 in interest to the bank over the last X amount of years that you've lived there. You've also repainted it and recarpeted. You've also put a new kitchen in. So that $300,000 profit tax-free that you think you've made isn't really $300,000. And when you go, okay, let's look at the real profit, and let's divide it by how many years you've been living there, you start coming back down to earth again, because you actually see things for what they really are.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the economy where we are, at least based in Sydney, it's so much cheaper to rent out at the moment, and we can financially, intelligently invest in other ways at the moment to build our wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And on the topic of that, I wonder what's your perspective on commercial investments at the moment?
Oh gosh, it's one you've got to be very careful of, because it depends who your customer is. For example, I own the office that I work out of in Darlinghurst. I'm a safe tenant because it's my business. I know that I can afford to pay the rent to myself. It's typically commercial property has a higher yield than residential investments. So I quite like it, but the problem is the banks are a lot more stringent with the loans. So quite often they'll ask for a 30% deposit. Sometimes there's GST payable on the commercial property as well, unless you've got a tenant and a tenant rental agreement already in place. But you've also got the growth might not be as great as it is, for example, against a residential investment property or the share markets. And you've also, obviously, this is a time in the world where commercial property has been really smashed because shops can't afford to pay rent, restaurants can't afford to keep servicing and feeding customers and clients. People are realizing that they're going to do the sea change or tree change and they can work more remotely. So therefore, these big offices in the city and the outskirts of the city realizing they don't need as much floor space. And this is why a diversified portfolio is so important, because it helps reduce that overall risk. But you've really got to go into investments with eyes wide open, understanding absolutely everything, asking as many questions as possible, no matter how stupid they sound, because they're not stupid at all. They're important. It's important that you understand what you're getting yourself into, because this is your hard, precious money. But I do probably like commercial property, as I say all of this, more than residential, because a lot of the outgoings are actually paid by a tenant, but you do need to weigh up all the pros and cons.
Yeah, it can be quite risky, but yeah, as a business owner, I was curious about the landscape of it at the moment, with lots of possibly deals coming up, with a lot of people moving out of the CBD.
And for people who are cashed up, this could potentially be a blessing. This is the blessings that I guess I'm talking about for some people. These buildings or offices that they were looking at investing in now may be at a 10% discount or a 15% discount or even greater. And the tenant may have been there for the next 3 or 4 years and is untouched by the pandemic, but you've got a guaranteed income stream. These are all, things that we need to really understand.
For sure. And going back quickly to the topic when we were talking about in COVID and job security and people losing their jobs, do you have any tips for young people wanting to start a business or a side hustle that can build more income?
Yes, do your research. This is a great opportunity for new businesses or especially hobbies, to emerge if there is the right demand there. So you obviously do your research, do your numbers, lean in. So don't just suddenly quit your full-time job and I think I'm going to launch this new business. Lean into it. So that does mean sacrificing a lot of your personal time and working around your 9-to-5 job. If it means working from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. and then going off to work, or coming home at night at 6 p.m. and then working on your side hustle until midnight or 1 a.m. If that's what it does, this is a great test to see if you're really serious about this business. So, and then when you see it's been consistently profitable and has the opportunity to continue on expanding, perhaps you look at going part-time, or you look at changing look at what the business is and how you can potentially make it work. But too many people I see just quit their full-time job before they've even sure that their side hustle is going to be profitable or not.
From your observation and the many people that you interact with, are there any spaces or areas that side hustles are starting to grow, whether it's cleaning out the house and flipping items or whatever it may be?
I think decluttering your home and selling those items on the secondhand economy is a great way to make some quick cash. I'm also seeing a lot of really interesting businesses, like businesses that sell crystals, beautiful crystals, and they sell them through the Instagram platform. I've seen those businesses flourish. A lot of small hobby businesses around the arts and crafts utilizing the Etsy platform are also doing really well. There's one particular account that I follow called So Sweet, and it's spelled S-E-W. And she makes baby clothes, and she's based out near the Gold Coast, and she's now making these beautiful face masks for the pandemic. So it's great, to be able to support her, but it's great to see her business doing really well, because she's been able to adapt and pivot in a challenging situation that we're all facing right now.
Some great suggestions there. Are there any expenditures that once seemed frivolous to you, but now seem to make perfect sense?
In my own personal living expenses?
Yeah.
I think for me, when I became a parent for the first time, which was 7 years ago, I really started to have an awakening as to the respect and responsibility of being a parent. And my pleasures became more simple. I valued just I guess I valued the wholesomeness and soulfulness of simplicity in just having dinner at home as a family, enjoying a good night's sleep, the energy you get from exercising, that's now what makes me feel, healthy and strong. And I don't really want to waste money on on all the beautiful designer dresses and handbags. And don't get me wrong, I do love those things still, but they're not as a big a priority for me anymore. And that's just the natural evolution of life. And there's nothing wrong with wanting all those things. But I guess I want those things with a different awareness or a different level, a different meaning, you could say.
Yes. You've also mentioned before, you're quite also conscious about landfill. And from serving you locally, I also understand you're quite conscious about the zero waste movement. What got you into that?
I guess minimalism did. I felt very suffocated and drowning in so much stuff, and particularly plastic stuff and brightly colored plastic stuff, and seeing all this stuff that we don't really use or value or appreciate filling up our homes. And then it's so dispensable, it's so cheap and easy to buy it, and then we just discard it with just not a care in the world or not a thought to where that actually ends up. And it's also a huge amount of money as well. So minimalism definitely led me into it. And then I read Anita Van Dyke's book, A Zero Waste Life book, which I just loved. And I just went from there. And it not only does, and I by no means am I saying I am a zero waste person. I try and do the best I can do in every single situation. And sometimes, like this morning, I got to take away coffee and got to take one of your coffee cups and bringing my own keep cup in today. It is what it is. I was having a bad morning and running around, and I desperately needed a coffee from your shop. There are some situations where we can't, but as long as we can do the best we do, and 80% of the time we do it, that's okay. We are at the end of the day reducing our overall landfill when we have that sort of approach and do the best we can do.
Absolutely. I think it's not like an all or nothing thing with everything we do, including our finances. It's not just we have to do absolutely everything perfect or nothing at all. As long as we try to do our part as best as we can, and at least we can take back some control of it, I think that makes a massive impact and ripple effect. And just checking, you're still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Cool. Just checking. Do you have any habits or routines for balancing work, social life, and health or exercise?
I have a list that I formulated every Sunday night, and it's the things that are important for me to get through to have that balance. And I wish I could say I tick everything off on that list, but I don't. But I really try and prioritize at least 3 exercise sessions per week. So for me at the moment, it's doing Pilates. And then I try and do an ocean dip once a week as well, which really helps recalibrate my headspace. Also, I have my work responsibilities, making sure I hit my deadlines. I manage all my media content as well for Sugar Mama. I have a list, but I try and factor into that list time for myself, time for my work, and time for my family.
Do you have any quotes or ideologies that you live your life by?
Oh gosh, there is so many. I think if you have a look at my Instagram account, and there's lots of financial quotes and also life quotes in there that reflect all sorts of different directions that I'm trying to improve myself and grow and immerse myself. So I don't think there's one that comes to mind immediately off the top of my head, but I'm so open to inspiration. It comes from so many different directions and in so many different ways in my life at so many different times.
Yeah. If you could go back to your 20-year-old self, what would you do differently?
I would tell myself not to get so caught up in the desire to buy a home. I remember being in my early 20s and I was just obsessed with buying a home, and I saved for years and years. I think my tooth fairy money was in my deposit when I finally bought a place, and I would go back in time and say, don't put as much pressure on yourself. Focus more on investing rather than buying a home, because eventually the passive income that you earn from your investments can then go and buy your home and then pay for the mortgage on that and help pay your mortgage off for you. So I would really go back and change the priority or the order in which I would do those financial decisions or make those financial strategies.
Yeah, I think that's a dialogue that happens in a lot of families that I grew up in with my friends' families or even my own family. The dialogue of having to make that big house investment, save and buy that house. And it puts a lot of pressure on us growing up, and sometimes it's not always the best decision to go by.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you. And our parents and grandparents follow this way of life or this expectation, and it's not right for everyone. And people then feel bad or guilty or ashamed that they don't want those things. But I think that's really healthy to know that you don't want those things, or that then you don't want those things necessarily right now. And our value systems, as we look at the different generations, for me, I crave flexibility. I crave time. I crave choice. I crave independence, where things were very different when my parents were growing up and my grandparents. So I think we really need to understand and be compassionate and empathetic towards different people's desires and wants, and what time in their lives they want them to happen.
Is there a book that you're reading, or something that you're excited about, or new projects that you're working on that you would like to share with us?
At the moment, I'm reading the Kiki lady who had the Kiki K stores. Yeah. She's written a book, and I'm really listening to that actually on Audible at the moment. And I am a really slow reader, embarrassingly. So I'm listening to it on Audible for the first time, and I'm really enjoying that. And there's a lot of obvious stuff in there, but it's good to hear that stuff again, because we so easily forget about it. And I'm finding it really inspiring. It's starting to make me think about what the next steps for Sugar Mama, what are the next steps for me in my life, what else do I want to achieve. And so I'm loving that right now. Last month I finally finished this book called Kindness, and it's all about being compassionate to yourself, about understanding why we get frustrated, why we get annoyed, why we burn the candle at both ends. And it's got lots of short stories within it about different people in different situations, and that's been a soulful healing book for me right now. So that's what I'm reading up. But literally, you'll ask me the same question in 6 months' time, and I'll still tell you I'm listening to the audio book by Kiki K. So I don't have a wide library because I'm just so slow at the moment.
Yeah. Thank you for the suggestions. The Kindness book is something I feel like I definitely need to pick up at the moment.
I highly recommend it. It's great.
I was having a conversation recently, and I was saying, "Oh, Kevin, you look like you're burning the candle at both ends." And I said, "How about throwing the candle into the fire?"
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, the book explains that. It talks about the pressure we put ourselves and the expectations and where it all stems from. And if we learn to step back, we'd enjoy life with more enjoyment and pleasure. And so I'll have to drop off a copy to your store.
Thank you. Last two questions as the tail end. If you could only send one single line of SMS text to yourself 5 years ago, what would it be?
Oh, 5 years ago. It will be okay.
It will be okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Nice and simple.
Yeah.
Finally, how can people hear or reach and learn more about you?
Well, probably best place and central place is my Instagram account, because everything I do, I provide swipe up links directly to my other content. So if you're following me on Instagram, you'll find the swipe up links to my YouTube channel, my blog posts, you'll see my IGTV videos, and obviously you get the links to my recently launched podcast, Financial Foreplay. So that's really central. But obviously jump on YouTube and type in Sugar Mama or Google Sugar Mama, and you'll find all the bits of information about me, and it's really easily accessible and digestible.
Also, everyone's going to check out her new book, Mindful Money, as well as her previous book, $1,000 Project.
Yes.
So insightful and inspiring to listen to you. You're a wealth of knowledge, and there's so much to take away from this. I'm going to finish this up, edit it, and take all the notes I can and share it with the people I know. Thank you so much for your time, Canna.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for creating the space, to share all the people you interviews, ideas, inspiration, motivation. It helps everyone in every different situation add more value and meaning to their life. So thank you.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you, and I'll catch you around.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Take care, Canna. Bye.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. All the links to the show notes will be available at kevinleesocial.com, spelled Kevinly. Conversely, if you have any interviews that you'd love to recommend, please send it over to kevinleesocial@gmail.com. I'd love to connect. Thank you. Until the next episode.